This episode of TWIMMO is brought to you by World of Tanks. Check it out absolutely free. Head over to gboffer.com/tanks.
Game Breaker TV.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to this week in MMO episode 210 for November 22nd, 2015. I'm Gary Gannon. Coming up on today's show, we're going to talk about Draenor, we're going to talk about Elite Dangerous, we're going to talk some Dragon Age Inquisition, and more. Joining me, as always, the noob fridge himself, Mr. Troy Blackburn. What is up, buddy?
It's Saturday, and you're cutting in on my garrison time there, Gannon.
You need an app for that.
I do need an app for that. See, if I had an app for that, I could just be sitting here doing it while we do the show.
That's what everyone wants. I think we're going to talk about that in the show today because everybody wants that. Joining us as always, Mr. Justin Kennedy, JK Kennedy TV. What is happening, sir?
Not too much. I guess Troy can be lucky that we only have to do this show one time in order to get it right. So,
yeah, one take. You're
not
right.
wasting
Just
too much
one
time.
take. It's perfect.
One take.
Yes.
I know what you're talking about. All right, first up this week, let's talk about some Warlords of Draenor. So the big news is that they broke 10. World of Warcraft has gone beyond 10 million subs again for the first time in a long time. August of 2014, they were at 6.8 million. September, they went up to 7.4. I think all the Warcraft fans were speculating on what they would go to, but damn, 10 million. I don't know. I don't have any friends like that were doing any kind of side wagers or bets that nobody went into the 10 million mark.
10 million? No. I mean, it's weird how I can be so surprised, but yet not all that surprised at the same time. Literally the day before this news came out, I was laying in bed thinking to myself, on TWIMMO, we're probably going to at some point take a guess on how many people we think are coming back. And I was thinking that I was going to say somewhere between mid-8s to maybe low 9s. Then the news comes out literally the next day, 10 million. Just boom, all of a sudden. People are just coming out of the woodwork for this, and for good reason.
I think I would have said the same thing. I would have said low 9s, high 8s, maybe low 9s, but damn, 10. Good for them, man. It's back.
Yes.
It
Apparently
was definitely
not dead.
surprising. I mean, everyone, I believe most people thought that most of it was all purchased prior to the launch. I think in a lot of cases, because most people who are currently playing probably bought their copies, and they're just going to go up that couple extra million or so. But then the first 24 hours, that was the most ridiculous thing about it, is that game launches over the course of 24 hours,
3.3 million.
3 million copies.
3.3 million copies in the first 24 hours of launch. Impressive.
Which sort of helps explain some of the problems they were having, because you always say, how do you not see this coming? Well, they probably thought the same thing we did. Most of the people who are going to come back, for the majority of them probably pre-purchased and were probably sort of already in sometime, not long after the sort of pre-expansion patch went out, and getting ready, getting geared up, getting your characters boosted, and learning how to play them. And 3.3 million within the first 24 hours of launch. I mean, wow.
What's crazy about that is that's 3.3 million. I mean, that's bigger than a brand new big IP MMO.
Most MMOs don't. They would kill to have 3.3 million players in total.
Yeah,
most of them. I mean, the number I usually hear thrown around is we want to hit 1 million within the first 6 to 12 months.
Yeah.
3.3 million in the first 24 hours of launch. Yeah, definitely would explain some of the issues they were having. Not all of the issues. We'll get to that in a minute. But
this just in: World of Warcraft is not dead.
Not dead.
No.
Breaking news.
Wonder why most people wait. I heard a really interesting statistic years and years ago, but they talked about with MMOs, and I think it was World of Warcraft in particular. It might have even been Blizzard. I may be wrong with this if they were the ones who talked about this, but they said the average MMO player, the average, not any of us, not any of the people watching this show. You are not the average MMO player, believe me. But the average MMO player doesn't know about an expansion until they hit a brick wall in the game. I think it was around the BC time. So when BC had been out, Burning Crusade had been out for months or something. And they said, interesting statistic. The average World of Warcraft player didn't know that there was a Burning Crusade expansion until they hit the point that literally a pop-up came up in-game and said, you need the expansion Burning Crusade to go any further. And they were like, oh, there's an expansion? They don't even know that it exists. I mean, I think it's probably changed by now because a lot of the players have played through 3, 4, 5, whatever.
To an extent, yeah, I'm sure it has. I mean, to us, that sounds mind-blowing. Like, how do you not know? I mean, the hype train has been rolling on this for a while now, for the past, I don't know what it's been, like over a year now since they had their last significant content update. But I'm about to say, back when I was like just average Joe Blow getting into MMOs for the first time, when I very first started playing WoW, I wasn't aware that there was an expansion that was separate from what I was currently playing. So, I mean, you know, there's definitely going to be people out there who's not aware.
You've
Like I
got
said,
10
for
million
us,
players.
that just seems like really weird that people can't be aware of that at this point, though.
When you have 10 million players, like I know there are tons of them out there who are just simply who have bought the game because of their friends, and they just log in and they do an hour a week with their friend or whatever. So them not realizing there's an expansion because they're not checking out a website or anything like that. I mean, the only way they're going to see it is if it's thrown in their face when they're playing the game. So yeah, I can believe that statistic, and I mean that's crazy. I think this one kind of reversed that idea, though. I think people wanted this one.
Yeah, I this is the first expansion that I can remember that I don't know anyone who's unhappy with it. I do not know one person who is like, this expansion is shit. Nothing good in it. Everyone I know,
the only
old
complaints
players,
here are the launch issues. That's it.
right, which is a separate issue. Again, we're going to talk about that. But I'm talking about, but content-wise, when you get in the game and you start playing it, I have not talked to one person who is not just like blown away by how good the content is. Everything, garrisons, everyone is talking about how addicting they are and just like how much they'll, you know. Let's talk about garrisons for a second though, because they are. Everybody's being addicted to them. Everybody's like logging in constantly or not logging out. Damn you. Because you're probably part of the problem.
Finding little things new about it too while they're playing it. They're like, there's something new people are learning every day about garrisons.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I run into something nearly at least every other day. I'm like, this cool little thing that I didn't realize works quite like it works. I didn't realize that it functioned like that. And I was like, well, okay, well that's pretty cool. I guess I need to build one of those now. I just got a level 3 garrison, so I've got room to expand now. So I'm trying to decide what I want to do.
I mean, there's a whole phenomenon with Pepe the bird in your garrison sitting on people's heads now.
Oh yeah, Q is obsessed with Pepe at the moment. She wants Pepe to ride on her head.
I'm just I'm still blown away that I got Thrall hanging out in my garrison. Like I'm like, how cool is that? Like he's hanging out. He's like hanging by the fire. Like screw you, Alliance. You don't know what you're missing. I got Thrall hanging out in my garrison, which is badass.
And there's at least one fairly major story point that sort of unfolds right there, smack in the middle of your garrison too.
Right there, and I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. You're talking about when brother comes over and they're about he comes over and there's a whole. I'm like sitting there going, is he gonna kill him? Is he gonna go for it right here? They're gonna like. Is there gonna?
I was too because I was like, this is we're altering history here, so you don't really know how this is gonna play out, and I was like. Oh no, I don't actually, they could do anything right here.
See, I find it's kind of funny with the idea of this garrisons. Initially, people were kind of like against it, like, oh, this isn't actual housing, this is just some additional thing in there that's just going to be annoying to have to deal with. And now that people are actually playing it, it's almost like people are like, well, screw traditional housing.
This is better than traditional housing. I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is better than
I mean, I will take this over like the fact that I can move a freaking painting on my wall like any day. Yes. Like this is it's gameplay. It's gameplay.
Sort of quest hub. It's sort of crafting center. I mean, it's just everything just kind of rolled into one. Yeah. And I mean, it's really early in this expansion, but looking forward in the future of the game, how do you not see this getting iterated and improved upon in pretty much every expansion going forward? I mean, they can't just put out another expansion and not do something garrison-like now.
Which could possibly include...
stuck in the past?
Do what?
Is your garrison stuck in the past?
Nah, they'll figure something out.
Yeah, I'm sure that one's stuck in. I don't think they should move that garrison to the next expansion, but when the next expansion launches, we should, wherever we're going, one of the first things we do is set up a garrison type thing there.
And then maybe they'll
let
give
them
us the
take it to
option
the
to
next level from where it is now.
move your paintings and stuff like that. So then
Yeah,
the
and move your
RPers can have a lot of
paintings and
fun with that.
This chair needs to be over here another inch to the side of
But this is the first expansion also where I'm watching chat room, somebody saying like, I'm so on the fence if like I really want to buy it. And this is the first expansion like where friends, some friends who haven't played and stuff are saying like, should I buy it? Like I instantly just say yes. Like I don't even say, oh, well maybe if you like WoW or, you know, if you maybe want to come back or if you're bored. I'm like, no, like just buy this because it's so compelling. What they're doing with story. I mean, it wanes off after a little while, and it goes into more traditional, MMO style World of Warcraft playing at a certain point. It starts off really, really strong and hooks you in. Goes into a little bit more traditional, but there's still, I feel like there's still enough like cinematics, and there's still enough cutscenes, and there's still enough story, and it's and then like I said, the additional garrisons and all these other things. There's a lot of components that just really work well together. I haven't seen anybody that's really. Like, I've seen a couple people like Garrisons is like a Facebook game, but it's like, oh my god, it's an addictive Facebook game. That's all.
Well, it's all the good things about like a mobile game.
Yeah.
You know, they've got all those little hooks and stuff, except that you always hit that little paywall. You know, do this faster, spend money. Well, it's all the good things about those little mobile games, minus that paywall. I mean, just sending your dudes out on missions and leveling them up, and they come back with gold and extra XP, and it's not a guarantee that they're going to win, but you can do things to make sure, to give them a better chance to win with the abilities they have versus the abilities of the enemy. It's man.
I don't know. Tell me what you guys think. I do not see Blizzard putting out an app for Garrisons. I don't see it.
I don't either. I don't think they're going to. We would all love to have it, but I really think they want you to log in.
They want you in game. They want you in the game. They don't want you like sitting on your phone at the bus stop.
But I think even more so, do people really want them to spend the time on developing a side app when they could be developing more content in the next expansion already? So that's not waiting a year and a half. I think they're going to put the priorities of developing more content for the actual game as opposed to developing an app that is only useful for the current expansion.
I agree. They knocked it out of the park. Blizz, I'm going to give you a clap because seriously, guys, you guys knocked it out of the damn park. I got to say, launch let's do it was a little rocky of a week. We're going to talk about it right now. The launch was a bit rocky, so I guess with good comes a little bit of bad.
And people were upset. Like, how can this huge company have problems?
Well, 3.3 million copies in 24 hours, right then and there, that's going to catch you off guard because that's it's not like, we sold 50,000 more than we thought we would in 24 hours. No, 3.3 million copies that you didn't really think or pre-order. That's a pretty large number, so that's not easy. So, coupled with, if you guys didn't hear about this, but they were getting DDoS attacked like the day of. So, and that became a whole game. I spent the entire day. I just said screw it. I couldn't log in anymore. So I sat and watched Tally's channel, and basically we watched what's that crazy website that you can watch all the DDoS attacks come in from across the world, like Viking, IP King. Yes. And we would just sit there, you just watch the DDoS attacks coming from like other parts of the world. It's just like, oh my god, it's just like nuclear war getting smashed at the Blizzard server. So, yeah, they had a rough week, man. And then they had to, I think some of the garrison tech all had to be overhauled as well. And that's what I wonder. So did they ever release a full statement, or do we know exactly why? Because I think part of the speculation was that nobody was logging out because of garrisons. So you had all these instances of garrisons like running, and way more than you would anticipate because no one would log out of the damn game because you just wanted to stay in to just keep, people were using
Well, I mean, it happens, and that's always the launch day thing, right? You had a long queue. You sat there for 10 hours. You got in. You're going to do everything you can running a macro to make sure that you don't get kicked out of the game.
I was going to say, I've already, I've heard stories of people who would go, what's the little instance, the stockades or whatever that's in Stormwind? People would literally go into that instance because you don't get AFK'd in an instance, and would just sit there overnight.
Oh, that was the other thing, yes.
So there was absolutely people trying to find ways to not log out.
Dungeons.
They were creating multiple instances just to not be logged out.
Yeah.
Yes. Which just makes the problem even worse.
Yes. But they got to stay logged in, so I don't know. If I would have thought of it, I might have done it, but I didn't think of it. So yeah, DDoS attacks, huge sales, you know, some garrison tech that needed to be worked on, obviously. So that kind of caught them a little bit. So I think it was just a culmination, you know, one thing piling on top of another thing on top of another thing, made for a bit of a strenuous week. My main tunes are on a pretty high pop server, Emerald Dream. I gave up after about day 2. I went and rolled over on another server. I might go. Yeah, I think everything's cleared up now. So I think
everything's good to go now. And I'm on a fairly low population server, and I still had like queue times and stuff, quite long queue times. Luckily for me, once you were in game for us on a lower pop server, the game ran fairly smooth. There weren't as many bugs as some of the higher population servers were getting, but we even on low pops, we definitely had queue times to contend with for at least the first few days.
Now, what do you guys make of the whole Reddit thing? So Reddit, the subreddit r/wow. Basically, the moderators, if you guys know how Reddit works, subreddits can be moderated, or I don't want to say owned, but they kind of, you know, are moderators don't own them, but they have a lot of control over the channel.
A lot of control.
To the point that the person who actually ran r/wow made it private, basically shut it down in protest until he was able to log into the game. Come on, bro. Come on.
If I can't play the game, nobody can talk on the subreddit, because that makes sense.
His tweet was, "From this moment forward, r/wow will be made private until I am able to log into the game."
Now, I did see another statement by them where, and this one I could understand. There was, I believe it was with this wow. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
it was another one of the moderators who
said,
out.
"We're going to stop moderating up until this point." Basically, they said, because it started out with, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they just said, we're just going to stop moderating the forum or the r/wow right now because we're being overrun by threads and comments, and we can't keep up with it. And the people who volunteer their time, who don't get paid to run the subreddit, were like up for 20 hours, 50 hours, whatever, just like constantly like trying to like control the subreddit. And they just gave up at some point. They just said, look, there's going to be no moderation. It's just do whatever you got to do. We'll get through this, but there's going to be no moderation. I could understand that because people were
that's understandable. That's a whole other animal from shutting the subreddit thread down because you're throwing your temper tantrum
with a threat, for your own game login, not until these queue issues are solved or something like that. It was until I get to play your game. There will be no subreddit.
I need to play the game until I can get in, Blizzard. Like they were gonna send them a Twitter message. Okay, what's your in-game name? What's your battle.net? We'll let you in. That's so lame. That something like the subreddit on Reddit can be held hostage by somebody who's just throwing a rage quit tantrum. Like, that's just lame. I wonder if that's going to spark any kind of change at Reddit. Maybe?
I don't know if it will. I mean, the Reddit already has the whole petition thing that you can do. I mean, it went down, it came back up, and then it went back down again, and then it came back up again. And I think from that point it stayed open. But
I think at one point somebody tried to start some sort of new subreddit for a while. At some point while that was down, I don't think they probably never took off. But.
Probably not. But hey, maybe a semi-permanent home. So that's back up and running. It looks like most of the servers are I think all servers are pretty much back to normal pace at this point. So I'm probably gonna transfer back over. There's Blizzard, obviously put out an apology. They gave 5 free days to subscribers, which is nice. I mean, I didn't really fully expect much, if anything. No, so I think that's
5 free days. That's more days than I had problems. So
yeah,
hey, you can't complain.
Kudos by them.
I guess it could have been nice. And I don't know if they even have a possibility to do it, but they said characters created in the past 10 days or since launch are able to be transferred. That way, anybody who went to create a character on a low pop server because they couldn't get in at all on their regular one could transfer back to it. Yeah,
but the truth of it was, I took a chance and went on another server, but most people actually were trying to tell me not to do it because they were having problems as well. At one point, the problems were so bad that it didn't even matter if it was what the population was, especially when the DDoS attacks were hitting because it was just being hammered. So yeah. I went and took a chance because out of just frustration. I wanted to play. And then I thought I would play Alliance with the CTR guys, and then I started rolling the Alliance side, and about 30 minutes into it, I said, nope. Nope.
I was listening to CTR the other day, and I heard that you had defected fairly quickly. From that
I made about. I almost did a level, maybe a level. I don't know.
And you were just like, nope,
I'm
done.
just
I can't
nope,
do this.
nope. I'm just Horde. That's the way it's gonna be. Sorry. I got my Garrison as an alliance, and I was no.
I've heard a lot of Alliance people say that they're sort of jealous that we get to hang out with Duratan and
Exactly.
it's sort of a big,
Exactly.
story going on.
Who's in there?
Exactly.
Do they have anybody in their garrison?
They've got some Draenei that looks like David Bowie from Labyrinth or something. I don't know.
Yay, goat people!
Sorry, Draenei. Make it a little funny. No, actually, I've heard Alliance really. The people on the Alliance side are really loving the story as well. I don't know. There was something about just I played a lot of Horde forever, and something about the Frost Wolves and stuff. That whole story. That just I started playing it the second WoD went live, and I kind of wanted. I think part of me also wanted to see that story through. So when I just all of a sudden jumped over, and now I was on the Alliance side, I was like, oh man! But I'm like, in this awesome snowy region in Duratan, enthralled in my garrison, and I missed it, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna reroll. I did roll a new class though, which I've never played before. Man, I had a super hard time to start out with, but oh my god, once I figured it out, I was like, holy crap, I like this class.
What are you rolling now?
Death Knight.
Death Knight.
Never played one, just never really bothered. And now, wow, holy crap, you can put out the deeps. Whoa, it's like
See, I used to be a DK back in the day, but I switched to Warrior just because DK had some things that just weren't as fun right now as it was for me back in the day. So I'm having fun on a brand new class that I never touched as well, a Warrior.
Yeah, I'm not that good of a player, so I don't want that kind of pressure. I don't want that tank pressure. Like I'm just not good enough for that.
Yeah, I love that.
So if it gets to like dungeons and raids, I don't want to get yelled at. I can kind of fake it as a DPS and just yell at people.
A DK is a tank too, man. You
Yeah,
can take on that DK.
not really. A little bit, but not so much.
It's like I won't be.
They're
Can,
pretty.
but it's not happening. You
They're
just
damn
accept it.
powerful though. I got Frost. I heard Blood's actually really good, but I'm doing Frost DK, just slicing through anything at this point. Once I kind of got it down, it all made sense. I was having some trouble in the beginning. It's totally confusing, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, the double resource mechanic can get you sometimes.
It's interesting. You got to move some stuff around, I feel like, in the UI. I've never felt like I wanted to modify my UI too much, but I feel like I want to now. Like, your runes and stuff being up in the left-hand corner, kind of hard to see. I need those, like, closer to the center, things like that. I don't know. But just awesome expansion. Wow. I was not at all excited about Mists. I got to say. Never really grasped me. I know a lot of players really, say it was a great expansion once they got through it and stuff, but it just never really grabbed me. And this feels just like, I don't know if there's been a better expansion. Some people are going to say BC, of course. Some people will say Lich King because you beat the Lich King. So that's a big monumental thing. But I don't know.
If we're looking at what we've seen so far as leveling up and questing and, running a few dungeons and not getting into raiding and stuff, because for me it'd be hard to top, raiding in Wrath because I enjoyed that immensely. But as far as just the sort of leveling up sort of content, I think this has got even Wrath beat. This is, and to me, this is the best expansion and the most fun I've had playing World of Warcraft as far as the leveling and the questing and seeing story as I go through.
Above all else, I think it was definitely a refreshing expansion. There are probably tons of people who just didn't buy into Mr. Pandaria that probably said, oh, I can skip all of Pandaria, boost up to level 90, and get to play the new expansion, which seems much more interesting to them, possibly story-wise.
And it feels like there's, it's serious. This is brewing. There's some things at hand that need to be done, and they do a really good job at the beginning of this story to like make it really feel like the clock is ticking and you're on the run and you got to like get this stuff done. My dream will be, Blizz, make this happen somehow. I don't know, but like to have that whole first section starts out with the cinematics, the voiceover, and like everything happening, the dark portal, and like make the entire expansion happen like that. I don't know how you do that.
Like an MMO that played like that.
Oh my God.
You don't even realize. That was probably the most linear thing MMO-wise I've played in a long time. But you don't realize that you're being led down a corridor because there's so much happening and it's so good and so much fun.
I would love to play a game that's like that all the way through. Just that bit of cinematic experience just kind of draws you in and keeps you kind of linked and locked into it. It's great. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about next up on the list. A little game that some people have been talking about. I've been playing. I haven't actually played since the beta has started. we've been dealing with some stuff. Actually, it'd be a good time to ask the chat room and people watching the show. Trying some stuff new here with the show and how it looks visually, things like that. You see the gameplay in the bottom. Let us know what you want if you like this. Leave a comment below. We're kind of seeing if you guys like watching the gameplay a little bit more than our stupid heads just talking all the time. So, figured leave a comment. Let us know what you think. But Elite Dangerous. They're now calling it a full-on MMO, by the way. I don't know if you guys have seen, but they are saying like it is an MMO.
No, I didn't see them actually say it is an MMO. I did not see that.
Yeah, the main dude, what's his name? David Braven, I think is his name. He came out and pretty much said, yeah, it is an MMO. So anyway, the big news this week is that there's a couple of things going on. Right now, they're in transition between, they just released the last beta. Actually, today's Saturday, so today is Gamma, which I don't even know if you can get in anymore unless you bought it. But regardless, they announced just last week that they were going to have no offline play. This kind of blew up, made a pretty big forum thread. People were like, kind of freaking out about this. So the quote that they put out about this said, trying to make it offline would have made both experiences worse than we were willing to tolerate. We had to make the decision and have done so. I would say that an offline rewrite of the game is unlikely for the future. So I think one thing to kind of point out so people understand what this means is, so there's no offline play, meaning that you have to be connected to the internet to play this game. There is a single player portion of the game that is not connected to other people playing in the world, and that's the big deal. Elite comes from a single player style game that people were used to, and some people I think were looking forward to that. And they did advertise on the Kickstarter that it was going to have offline and online play, but they're not able to provide that. So basically, what they've done is in the single player and stuff, the minimum requirements of online play is something like incredibly low, like 10 kilobits per second. And I don't know what this is exactly for. They haven't really gone into specifics. Say something like, we're trying to make this experience. What did you guys take away from this? Because I took away from this that what makes sense to me is that they don't want to have two instances of the universe that would change over time. So even if you're in the single-player game, at least you can send back data to the servers to where if things change in the universe, it's in sync with everybody, whether you're seeing other players or not.
I'm gonna have to go. It's most likely that because he came back and added in. He said a fully offline experience would be unacceptably limited and static compared to the dynamic, ever unfolding experience we are delivering. So there's gonna be a lot more stuff dynamically happening that their systems probably push out there at certain points. And if you're in offline mode, that obviously wouldn't work.
Right, and I'm watching the chat room, and I think this is the misconception. I gotta say, I'm not gonna call you out, but I kind of do think. My opinion, I think you're wrong if you think this is just for DRM purposes. I don't think that that's the case here. I think the case is that if they were to have an offline universe, completely offline, you would become very bored with that universe because it wouldn't change. Nothing would happen. And they don't have the infrastructure to create new things and have all the the trade routes and things that are going to happen. So if you guys aren't following Elite Dangerous, it's a sandbox sci-fi MMO you see on the screen here. Dogfighting, heavy on resources, mining, buying and selling commodities is going to be a really big part of it. Exploring new systems and things like that. It's totally space sim nerding. I love it. I got the Oculus. I got the controls. I totally just forget it. I'm out of here. I'm not even on the planet Earth.
See, I'm going to guess here that...
I don't see that this is DRM. I really think this is because if the static world, the offline world, had no updates, you would be very bored as a gamer with that world very quickly.
Well, it sounds like the game was going to, at least slowly, if not already, was sort of becoming almost two different games between the offline and the online, and they were going to have such a hard time sort of trying to make the two function together that they just decided, let's just pick the one that's going to be the most dynamic, the most fun, and keep people interested the longest, and let's just go with that and concentrate on that. And ditch all the other junk that's just maybe not contributing to the fun of the gameplay. And it sounds like that's what they did. I'm with you. This doesn't sound like a DRM choice. This sounds like a fun gameplay choice and keep people interested in our game in the long term.
Yeah, and we obviously have no proof on anything on why they did this, but I mean, if you look at it, this is a Kickstarter company. This isn't some company with some multi-billion-dollar business back there backing it and stuff. So when it comes to development stuff, if they want to create this dynamic world, they have two different ways of doing that. They can create a whole system that does it randomly, but that might cost more money and be a lot more time restrictive than if they created tools that they might create a whole story and scope their world and create these events that happen when they want to, using tools as opposed to some kind of random thing that did it in the game and made everyone's experience different. They almost want to create that world where you experience this event that happens. They want everyone to experience that when it happens.
Yeah, and I think the important thing here for a lot of players, because this is, and you know my stance on PvP and how I kind of like open world stuff. And that, to me, I can't imagine playing this game offline or not with other players. But let it be clear, you can still play Elite without other real life people playing in your world. So for the people out there who are worried about, like, you know, griefing and ganking and fighting other players, you are still going to be able to play the game without other players if you want to. It's just that you do need a connection to probably pass back packets of how you're changing the world so it can all go to one central place. That's the way I'm seeing it. So it's not like that's going away completely and they're just saying, like, no, everyone's going to live in this universe and everyone's going to play with everyone and it's a full-on MMO. That's not really what they're saying here. So, I think the last thing he said, another quote, he says, a fully offline experience would be unacceptably limited and static compared to the dynamic, ever unfolding experience we are living. I can totally understand that. By the type of game that they're trying to create here, completely makes sense. I think that static game offline with no changes would become incredibly boring, and I don't see how they could ever keep up with making this world feel dynamic. So, they have gone through a couple things. They are, I believe, pre-ordered people. They're offering refunds under, I believe, certain circumstances, not all, if I'm correct. Is that right?
Yeah. You had to have pre-ordered the game through the online store, and you have not access to alpha or beta at all yet. If you were a Kickstarter backer or you are an active tester, you're not eligible.
And I do believe that there was something else maybe in the past 24 to 48 hours where they said something that they're still evaluating the limitations or how they're handling refunds and if they open it up even more. So if you're that unhappy with it, I'd say just keep an eye on the forums and things like that. But I don't see this as a huge big deal. I think everything's going online anyway. And I think in the long run for most players, this is actually going to make a better experience for them. They even said, I mean, they made the limitations if you're going to play this in the solo mode so low that you could have like your laptop basically tethered to your like phone. It needs to send like a couple kilobits. Like it needs almost nothing. It just needs something to be connected. So check it out. But if you guys haven't checked out, if you're into the space sim stuff, man, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I need some more like space pirates to like fly around with. I don't have it. I'm like a lone wolf.
You've already lost a ship once, haven't you?
I've lost a few
I think we did a
ships.
TWIMMO where you were actually going around trying to rebuild a ship because you got blown up.
I have lost a few, and then I kind of put it on the side for a while because I'm like, you know what? I'm going to wait for a wipe. But they're adding more ships. They're adding all kinds of stuff. There's new stations. It's gonna be really interesting to see. I'm really curious to see how Elite plays out. A lot of people are curious to see like what the big. I'm still curious myself to see like what the real. I hate using the term end game here because there is no end game. But it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out because a lot of people are like trying to speculate. It's going to be like the next EVE Online or what are you going to do like, you know, at later levels? Like, what do you do after you get like the best ship in the game or something? And that's going to be interesting. And I don't think they fully know, right? I think they probably want to see like, well, what are the players going to do?
Well, yeah, I think there's going to be sort of the sandboxing experience is, you know, let's wait and kind of see what the players end up doing once they get to that point, and if we need to step in and try to do something that, you know, change it up to make it, you know, give them something to do or make something fun, we'll do that. But let's just see, you know, kind of what they do on their own.
I would like to see, hopefully, if I can put my 2 cents in for a minute, Frontier, I would like to see at least tools that players could try and secure sectors of space and have larger goals for large groups of players to get involved with, like player stations.
Territorial control of some sort.
You do. Then it becomes EVE. Then everybody freaks out because there's a lot of the Elite community that just freaked out when I said that. They're just like, no, we don't want that. This isn't EVE. And I get it. But I do think that for the longevity of it, if it's going to be online and you're playing with other players, there's got to be some kind of reason, a larger goal that you can't attain completely by yourself. That's the way
Or
I
you
feel.
don't hold on, or you don't always have control of the entire time.
Exactly.
You lose it, and then
Exactly.
retain it.
So we'll see. I think it's gonna. That's why I think it's gonna be a really interesting title to watch and just sort of see how it evolves, because I think that's what's gonna happen here. Is you're gonna see this thing change and morph and evolve over time, which is gonna be cool. I'm psyched for it. All right. Next up, let's talk a little bit about the League of Legends. We haven't talked about League in a while.
This is pretty cool, though.
This is pretty cool. So they're paying people. I guess if anybody needs to make some cash out there, you could you could try and figure this out. Oh, what is that? What's going on with my... Hang on. I'll fix this. They're actually paying people to find security exploits. What? What?
It sounds weird when you initially say it, but if you're trying to figure out how people are hacking into your game and breaking the game, why not go to the people who are hacking into the game and breaking your game?
Kind of makes sense.
That's the idea of the white hat hackers. I guess is the idea behind this. Like, there's always people out there who do that. There are people out there who are they'll hack a system, and then they'll contact the game company or the business or whatever, and let them know. Of course, there are others who probably hold it ransom as well, and then there are others who just make it visible and ruin the experience for everybody. But I guess now Riot's like really just like, you know what? Internet security is an issue. We understand that. We are going to, as a company, go out there and try to ensure that our game is secure, more secure than others.
Well, I'll tell you, the more and more people I end up meeting, not naming names, but I know a couple people that I've met who work in internet security for like big AAA companies, not even game companies, but it's just a couple of the, like really big ones. They're total ex-hackers. They're ex-hackers. Like, they're full on, like, they knew how to exploit this. That's why they're so good at it. And they end up getting like really, really good jobs at these companies, like heading up security, because they know how to break all that kind of stuff.
Let's be honest, a lot of times it feels like the security guys are just trying to keep up, or the hackers are the ones who are out there sort of innovating. So, it makes sense that those would be the guys that end up with the big jobs, because those are the guys who taught themselves and learned to innovate and grow and sort of, go out on the fly and just see, make stuff up as you go and just see, do whatever it takes to get into whatever system you're trying to get into.
Yeah, and I know some companies hire other companies or hire other people to do this specifically, to spend their day or spend their week or whatever trying to hack into their system, and they pay them for that time and stuff. I guess in the sense Riot's like, we are working on a system to kind of open it up there, and almost like we're crowdsourcing security exploit finding.
So the quote here from Riot says, no software connected to the internet can be considered 100% secure. He said, we know that smart people all over the world poke at our software, websites, and infrastructure looking for weaknesses. Some will successfully find security vulnerabilities. When this happens, it's critical that we become aware of the vulnerability ASAP so we can fix it before it's widely abused. So there's a couple people in the program. There's only a handful of people. I don't know what the prerequisites are, like how you get into this like program, but there are a few people in here. So far, apparently, it looks like 75 bugs have been found in the beta tests, and $100,000 have been given out to these people who have found it. So there's some real money there if you know what you're doing. I don't know how you get a part of that thing, but probably got to contact Riot.
I mean, if you look at it, I mean, I don't know how good you have to be, but 75 bugs, $100,000 there. We're almost looking at like $1,000 or more a bug.
Got to have your black hat coin. For you hackers know what that is. They carry a coin around with them. They carry, like hackers carry a coin. It's got a black hat on. It's got a black face. It's like an Illuminati thing.
They're like their password to the club.
It kind of is.
They set it down on the table and it lets everyone else in there like,
All right, next up, let's talk about some Dragon Age. Some Dragon Age Inquisition. Everybody playing Dragon Age? That's the one I've gotten pulled away from Draenor with the Dragon Age. I was
playing it all day.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I think we all have Dragon Age.
Okay. First things first. Am I crazy, or does this more than any Dragon Age ever feel like an MMO? Which is why we're talking about it. Like, we were like, should we talk about this? It's an RPG, and I'm sure most of the people on the show will like it, but it's not an MMO. But holy crap, it feels like an MMO.
It plays like one, doesn't it?
It has systems like one. More so than the previous.
I
More
mean,
than the first one.
What is it though? Like it's actually obviously a combination of the open world, and there's just so many different little things to do. Like, you know, look for these shards and collect these and do this and here's a quest and
Yeah, that's the thing. There's a lot of quests. There's a lot of gathering. I did an escort quest today.
not that ram one. Did you do that ram one?
Yeah, that's a stupid slow thing.
Please,
It reminded
just
me why I was like, why isn't it running? It runs when it attacked me.
BioWare, just take that out of the game now. Worst quest ever. Gotta be the worst quest ever created by BioWare right there. Why is the goddamn thing so slow?
When I did that quest, I go, this is just like in an MMO.
But it's so slow. Come on, can he trot? Can he run? He should be able to get through those.
Question you ask in every MMO though.
Oh, it's so funny that you
Every
brought that
MMO
one quest up.
ever in this game.
That is the one quest so far that I completely facepalmed and was just like, ugh. But it does. It really feels like an MMO. Really solid. The world feels gigantic, which is interesting, especially when you're in the hinterlands. At least once you get out of the hinterlands, it feels a little different. But the hinterlands feels like a gigantic world, and it is. It's like I guess do you call it? Would you consider this an open world? It's like a hybrid. It's like a gated open world because it's not fully open world. You can't get to all the different areas until you unlock them. So it's not really open world.
Yeah, you sort of have to work your way up
But
to.
in some cases, you can't unlock all the open. You can't unlock all the zones in every MMO right
Exactly.
now.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. So I mean that you know maybe that helps contribute to the feeling of the MMO is not only are you doing sort of MMO-ish quests and you're part of a party and you know they're not like unless you're playing the multiplayer, you know these guys aren't your friends playing them, but you're part of a group, and then you've got to work your way up to be able to get to the next zone and see the next stuff. And I've heard after you get after the first zone, the second zone, the story starts opening up, and you know the quests get a little more interesting. It's I mean even just
so
it plays very MMO-ish, and when you hear people talk about it as they're getting further into it, it sounds MMO-ish, and we don't mean that in a bad way. It just sort of has MMO qualities to it.
Yeah, I think a lot of MMO players would feel right at home with this. Couple of things. No spoilers. Won't give any spoilers. Not going to give anything away because I think it's super important, especially with this game. But I think Kotaku just ran an article or something in it, and it was so spot on as far as like what the mindset to go that get out of the hinterlands. Like if you're playing the game and you're feeling a little bit like kind of like what's going on, like because you can spend a lot of time there if you want to. You can spend a lot of time in the
there.
Yes.
So I'm just like,
and how many hours have you played?
App and I played all day. I played all morning. I've played at least 7 or 8 hours today, probably.
Because I spent about 9.
I open the map and I click everything. I'm like, ooh, there's something right next to me. I'm going there.
The thing that's gonna happen, depending if you're totally having fun with it and you want to just keep going, do it. But until you get out of the hinterlands and start expanding on the story part, I was getting a little bit like in the hinterlands. There was a point where I was sort of just going like, oh man, and like my ADD is like making me want to do every quest, and I'm like picking this up, and I got to do the shiny, and I got to do that, and I'm like, oh, but man, I'm just like nothing's happening, and I'm kind of like, why am I doing all these little things? I don't know why I'm doing it. And then I was like, screw it, and I went back to the war room, and I did a couple things, and I unlocked an area, and then the next part of the story started happening. And I was just like, holy shit. All right.
Oh, yeah.
Shit's getting real. All right. Now it's starting. So if you start getting slightly bored in the hinterlands, just get out of the hinterlands because you can definitely get out probably much earlier than you think. You don't have to complete it.
You can go back to it too, right?
Sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you can go. If you're one of those who has to do 100%, come back later.
Yeah.
Luckily for me, I am not one of those. I do not need to 100% a map to move on and see part of the story. Once, just like Shadow of Mordor, probably my favorite game of the year so far. I haven't got very far into Inquisition yet, but Shadow of Mordor. And I did some of the side quests and stuff, but once I decided, I kind of got on a groove in that main storyline, and once I finished the main storyline, I was done with the game. I don't need to go back and do all that.
And being
stuff.
kind of an open world game, if it can kind of pull you in all different directions that aren't really driving the story. You got to do some of the side quests and the questing to get your power up and things like that to unlock some of the stuff. But I mean, there's still. Have you guys finished the one rift near the waterfall? And there's like they're not bosses, but there's 2 like pretty badass mobs there.
In the hinterlands?
I still haven't finished that rift.
The one by the farm.
Yeah, sort of. There's a waterfall in the farm.
Yeah,
Wipes me every
past the
time.
farm camp down by the waterfall. Yeah, I haven't been able to do very many of the rifts. I've done like 1 or 2 in the hinterlands, but a lot of them have those. They're I think they're like 5 levels above they're supposed to be.
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering. All right, no, it might be a spoiler. I don't want to be a spoiler.
Well,
I think there might be treasure there. That's all I'm going to say. I think there might be buried treasure.
I'm not as far as along as you guys are, because if we want to talk about how it's very much like an MMO, let's talk about how some people, probably a lot of people, have been having MMO-ish problems with the game.
Like
I very much could. It was playable. I downloaded it and I got into it the first night, and it was playable, but every 45 seconds to a minute, it would just freeze up for, I don't know, a good second to 2 seconds.
Oh, really?
And it was just annoying enough
what system are you
that I
playing
did
on?
not want to play it. And so I kept logging. I was changing settings. I was uninstalling and re-downloading drivers. I did everything I could do for 2 or 3 solid days. And finally, one day, I was just not even thinking Dragon Age. I was just somehow wound up on Reddit, and I seen a thread on Reddit that said, oh, if you're having small freezes in your game, you need to go in and turn off all the origin stuff in the game to get it to run. And I was like, no. So I went in and I turned off all the origin overlays, all the achievements and everything, smooth as butter.
Okay,
Thanks,
there you go.
Origin.
Pro tip. Turn off the Origin stuff to play the Origin
Turn
game.
off all the Origin stuff if you're having problems.
I have menu issues. The start menu at the
Are we
very
all on
beginning of the
PC?
game.
Just to get everybody clear, is everybody on
Yeah,
PC? So am I.
PC. The start menu, I have to get past that as soon as I can. That game's loading up. As soon as it says click to continue, I'm clicking it, and I'm clicking continue and start loading into the game. After that, I am fine. But something is wrong with that start menu. It takes my CPU up all the way, and even if it's like it's only like 80% actually. My CPU is like at 80% with it, and then it just freezes, and then just sits there and hangs forever. I have to just close it out through the system thing.
Sounds like it might be some intermittent. I mean, I'm smooth as butter. I got no problems whatsoever. It launched, plays. I got nothing. So I mean,
yeah, it runs good for me now that I got rid of the Origin aspect.
Oh, maybe Justin, maybe you got something there.
I just got to get past the menu.
Oh, and one more pro tip, because I'm sure there's no way we're the only people who's had this problem. I know me and Justin had it for at least a little while. If everybody's hair is shiny, go into the graphics setting and turn the mesh to high. That will fix it.
Yeah, do not use medium settings for the meshes.
There you go.
Everybody looks like they've got metal hair, and after I got my frame rate problem fixed, I was like, now everybody's hair is shiny. Why can't I just play this game and enjoy it?
What do y'all?
I got that in an hour.
Let's talk controls for a second. How are y'all playing? I'm playing with an Xbox controller.
I
found myself playing with an Xbox controller too, and I don't typically like playing anything on a controller unless I just have to.
I was using mouse and keyboard, and then this morning I connected the controller, and first off, turning has become much smoother than what it was with the mouse and keyboard. So like it was so jaggedy trying to move with the mouse and keyboard and stuff. The camera just like felt like it was just turning too fast, or just didn't feel normal.
You think that was like a mouse acceleration program type issue?
Oh yeah, the acceleration probably doesn't actually turn off even though you have it turned all the way down. There's not an off option. So that felt like an issue, and I think I probably, if you turn down your mouse polling rate or whatever, or all those settings down really low, it probably wouldn't be so bad. But I think like I was moving my mouse too fast, and then it takes the camera to actually turn and keep up with it. That was annoying, but the controller feels nice.
Yeah, it feels like it was made for a controller.
Better UI. The UI is like so much cleaner with the controller as well.
And that's
I do like the UI better with the controller too. I will have to admit that.
And I would say, if you're on a PC and you're using a controller, if you want to even clean up the UI more, you can go and change some of the settings like contextual, and it'll clean some stuff up when you're not using. Some of the UI will like auto hide itself and things like that. So, yeah, I really like the controller. And one thing I loved about, I love Dragon Age 1, 2, not so much. But this one has really kind of rekindled my love for BioWare. And this franchise. I was really on the fence, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to give it another shot, see what this is like. And I think they really pulled off a really great game here. Do you guys use the tactical mode at all? Anybody going into tactical?
Not unless I feel like I kind of need to maybe adjust where somebody's standing, or drink, pop a potion for somebody who seems to absolutely refuse to drink a potion when they need to. Other than that, I'm pretty much playing as like an action RPG where I can, and mostly staying on my character too. Like I'm swapping occasionally, but mostly just sort of staying on my character.
Yeah, I like to stay on my character. I've had to go into tactical mode once. First boss, Templars. It's all about Templars. I had to use tactical mode, which was a really interesting fight. Like it just like barely scraped by, but so yeah, I would say another game, man. MMO players, I think you guys would love this game. It's a solid RPG. The story so far actually is pretty good, and it's the other thing I'm really struck by, like the dialogue. Voiceover in video games is usually hard to really get right and kind of like feel just sincere. And they've really done a really great job with it. Like the reads that they got from these actors are really just spot on. Like they really work. The diversification between the characters that you get, and you start getting more and more of your party members and stuff. Like they're all like diverse and a bit different, and some of them are quirky, and some of them are funny. And it's I don't know. They did a really good job. So I'm definitely right back in the BioWare camp, I gotta say.
Necro in chat makes a good point. He says clearly they're not playing on Nightmare, and I think the tactical camera I'm playing on normal, and I'm assuming both you all are as well.
Yes.
I know the tactical camera is apparently used quite a bit more in the other.
Yeah, I've heard that too. The harder you get, the more you use the tactical camera.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but I don't know. I would just rather play it more as an action RPG with the tactical camera as a choice. If I feel like I need to, make those minor adjustments. But if you enjoy that type of gameplay, definitely go Nightmare and use the tactical to death. I mean, it seems to work for what you need it to work for. I mean, I think Justin was telling me yesterday that some of the like the original Dragon Age, I think he said the tactical camera sort of worked a little better in that. Some of the things he liked better than that. But I mean, it's definitely functional for what you need to do here.
All right, last up, we're gonna try something a little bit different. Again, if you're watching the live show, we're taking Twitter questions. So if you're watching the live show, I said send a question to @GameBreakerTV. I've only gotten one. I'm very disappointed in all of you, except X.
You probably should have put something up on.
I probably should have. I probably should have actually told you.
So.
All right, here is this week's question. So we'll people get used to this and they'll start sending them in. So X says, if you could take any existing universe and turn it into an MMO, which would it be and why? Mine is Dragonlance. That is his, not mine. Who wants to go first?
Transformers. And
Really?
Not that crappy whatever that competitive game that was it Jagex that's doing a game or something, whatever that thing is, it's crap. Transformers as an MMO in a full fleshed out universe where I could be a freaking Transformer and make my own dude, yes, absolutely.
You're a big Transformers fan, huh?
Big Transformers dude. Anything that involves Optimus Prime, I'm just geeking out. I'll admit, look, they're not great, the Michael Bay films, but I go watch them. Okay, like let's just put that out there. Just air our dirty laundry right now.
Hey!
Watch them.
Don't be ashamed. Don't be ashamed of your Transformers love. You love the Transformers.
I do. I'm a Transformers guy. So Transformers, I would love a Transformers full-fledged AAA MMO open world universe. Yes, give me that.
See, now you've changed my answer.
Are you gonna go Transformers?
I wasn't thinking shows at all. I didn't even think about that.
Just
I was
any
just
universe.
Thinking, like game series.
No,
but
any universe.
From the way I like to play, I would almost say Game of Thrones now. Because I feel like it'd be an amazing transition into a sandbox territorial control game.
That's a good one. I wasn't thinking that. That's a good one.
Game of Thrones is a sandbox territorial. Ooh,
speaking of the
sexy.
Telltale Game of Thrones game looks really good.
Oh yes. Oh my goodness.
Like wow, we may actually get a good Game of Thrones game, which would be amazing.
And I'll tell you what I've recently discovered too is that I actually prefer playing Telltale's games, those adventure games like that, on my tablet instead of on the PC. I like just laying around on the couch, like the Wolf Among Us. I've just got into that now. I've played The Walking Dead, but I'm just now getting the Wolf Among Us, and I'm absolutely loving just playing it on the tablet, just lounging around playing it.
It's actually exactly where I play them as well. I don't play them on PC. I play them on tablet. Mine would have to be, it's actually going to be a game franchise. No one, well, some people would want to play it, but there'd probably be maybe 10,000 people playing this game as an MMO. Red Dead Redemption. I'd love a Western.
God.
No one would want to play a Western MMO, but I would love to because we've never had one. Like we've had sci-fi, we've had fantasy, like we've had all, and it just, I don't know, just on my horse, the sunset, some music playing. I'd love it. I love Red Dead. Maybe we'll see Red Dead 2.
Yeah, Red Dead made probably one of my top 3 games ever all time. Like I can't even tell you, I lost my life to that game on the what was the first one? Was the PS2 the first one or the PlayStation? I can't remember now. I think it was a PS2.
I think it was PS2.
But yeah, I mean that was just one of the man. I love that game. Love that game. Just freaking suck it up and bring it to PC. What are we still waiting for? What is still the major holdup on bringing those to PC?
I don't know how well did that game really sell. That's the thing. I don't know. I don't really know how well Red Dead did. It was critically acclaimed. Everybody who played it just absolutely fell in love with it. But I don't know. Western is not. It's not a big genre. Like everybody goes, they're not going to take these chances. I don't know.
It doesn't do well in movies as much anymore either.
Nah.
It's not put out there.
The kids.
Like, any Western you see is old Western movies.
It's true. All right, Justin Kennedy. Follow him on Twitter at JKKennedyTV. I don't have outro music or a lower third set up this week, so we'll get on that next week. JK Kennedy.
But hey, the show worked the entire time.
We actually got through a show, which is all that matters right now. We got through a show. If you only get people watching the show on the download are wondering what we're talking about, well, this is like 2 days of delays and gear blowing up, and we finally got through it. So I don't have a couple things, but we'll get it on track. Troy Blackburn, follow him on the Twitter at NoobFridge, and check out all his stuff on GameBreaker.tv with a really interesting Warlords of Draenor article coming out in the very near future.
Yeah, we've got something really cool coming out here in the next day or two, so just keep an eye out.
Keep an eye out. All right. You can follow me on Twitter at Gary Gannon, follow GameBreaker TV. Make sure you follow us on Facebook and YouTube and all that stuff. So going to get an audio feed only of this show up and running very soon as well. I'll get back on track with that. But really, if you guys want to help out the show, following us on the social medias, basically Facebook and YouTube, really, really, really help support the show. So thanks, you guys, so much. And we'll see you next week for some more This Week in MMO.